There is a moment that comes to almost every human being, usually quietly, usually without warning, when they look in the mirror and see a stranger wearing their own face. The hands are different. The eyes have changed. The skin remembers every winter it has survived. And in that moment, a question rises up from somewhere deep and old inside the chest, a question that no one teaches you how to answer. What was all of this for? What actually matters now? Most people spend their entire lives preparing for a future that never explains itself. They chase love, believing it will complete them. They chase friendship, believing it will protect them from loneliness. They chase family, believing it will give their life permanent meaning. And none of these things are wrong to want. Love is beautiful, friendship is precious, family can be a sanctuary. But something strange happens as the years accumulate, as the body slows, as the calendar stops being a promise and starts being a countdown. Something shifts. And the people who arrive at old age with real peace, real strength, real quiet joy in their eyes are almost never the ones who simply had the most love, the most friends, or the biggest family around them. They are the ones who built something else first, something inside, something that no other person could ever hand to them, and no other person could ever take away. Today we are going to talk about that. Not to frighten you, not to make you fear the years ahead, but to wake something up in you early, while you still have time to build it on purpose instead of discovering it by accident. Because here is the truth that almost nobody says out loud. The things that matter most in old age are not gifts other people give you. They are qualities you cultivate in yourself quietly over decades, often without realizing you are doing it. And if you understand them now, you do not have to wait for old age to feel their power. You can start living from them today, at whatever age you are, and your entire life will change shape around them. Let us begin with the first one because it is the foundation beneath everything else. It is your relationship with your own mind. Think about this carefully. Every single day of your life, from the moment you wake up to the moment you fall asleep, there is one voice you cannot escape. It is not the voice of your parents or your partner or your closest friend. It is not the voice of your children or your colleagues or the crowd. It is your own inner voice, the one that comments on everything you do, that judges your mistakes, that replays your regrets, that whispers doubts into your quietest hours. You can walk away from a difficult relationship. You can move to a new city and leave old friendships behind. You can even, in the most painful of circumstances, become estranged from family. But you can never walk away from yourself. Wherever you go with you. And so the most important relationship you will ever build, the one that will either torture you or comfort you in your final decades, is the relationship you have with your own mind. People who reach old age in real peace have usually done a very specific kind of work over the years. They have learned to stop being at war with themselves. They have made peace with their mistakes instead of carrying them like stones in their pockets for 50 years. They have learned to speak to themselves the way they would speak to someone they love, with patience, with understanding, with the willingness to say, "I forgive you. I understand why you did that. You were doing the best you could with what you knew at the time." This is not weakness. This is one of the hardest and most courageous forms of strength a human being can develop, because our natural tendency, especially when we are young, is to be our own harshest critic. We replay our failures on a loop. We compare ourselves endlessly to others. We let one unkind comment from years ago echo louder than 1,000 kind ones. And if that pattern is never interrupted, it does not go away with age. It gets louder, it gets heavier. An old age filled with self-judgment is one of the loneliest places a person can live, even if their house is full of visitors every single day. But something beautiful happens when a person finally learns to make peace with their own mind. The noise begins to quiet down. The harsh inner critic softens into something more like a wise old friend. And in that silence, in that internal peace, something remarkable becomes possible. You can finally hear yourself think. You can finally know what you actually want, instead of what you have been told you should want. You can finally sit alone in a room with nothing to distract you, and instead of feeling anxious or empty, you feel something closer to contentment. This is not something anyone else can build for you. Your partner cannot give it to you. Your children cannot give it to you. Your closest friend cannot give it to you, no matter how much they love you. It has to be built from the inside, brick by brick, through years of honest reflection, forgiveness, and the quiet decision to stop being cruel to yourself. And the earlier you start building it, the more solid ground you will have to stand on when the storms of later life arrive, because they will arrive, for everyone, without exception. So ask yourself today, right now, how do I actually talk to myself when no one else is listening? Is that inner voice a source of comfort, or is it a source of quiet suffering? Because whatever the answer is right now, it is not fixed. It can be changed. And every single day you choose patience over self-punishment, understanding over shame, is a day you are laying another brick in a foundation that will hold you steady when everything external in your life becomes uncertain. Now let us talk about the second thing, because it grows directly out of the first. It is purpose. Not the kind of purpose that ends when a job title ends, or when children grow up and move away, or when a role in society quietly expires. A living, breathing, renewable sense of purpose, one that can survive every transition life throws at it. Here is something that becomes painfully clear the moment a person retires from work, or watches their children build lives of their own, or loses the roles that once organized their days. If your entire sense of meaning was built on a role that other people or circumstances assigned to you, meaning can be taken away in a single afternoon. A career ends, a role as a parent of young children ends, a role as a caretaker ends. And if that role was the entire architecture of your identity, its ending can feel like the collapse of your whole reason for existing. This is why so many people struggle in the years after major life transitions, not because they have lost love or friends or family necessarily, but because they have lost the story that told them who they were and why they mattered. The people who navigate old age with vitality, with light still in their eyes, are almost always people who have learned to build purpose from the inside rather than borrowing it entirely from external roles. Their purpose might be curiosity itself, a genuine childlike hunger to keep learning, keep discovering, keep asking questions about the world for no other reason than the sheer joy of understanding it a little better each day. Their purpose might be creation, a need to make something, whether it is a garden, a piece of writing, a painting, a solved problem, a well-cooked meal shared with someone. Their purpose might be service, a quiet commitment to being useful to others in small, unglamorous daily ways. Their purpose might simply be to keep growing as a human being, to become slightly wiser, slightly kinder, slightly more understanding with every passing year, treating their own character as a lifelong project instead of a finished product. What all of these forms of purpose have in common is that they do not depend on any single role, relationship, or external circumstance to survive. They can adapt. They can flow into new forms as life changes shape around them. A person whose purpose is curiosity does not lose their purpose when they retire. They simply redirect that curiosity toward new subjects. A person whose purpose is creation does not lose their purpose when their children leave home. They simply create something new. A person whose purpose is growth does not lose their purpose when their body slows down. Growth of character has no expiration date, no retirement age, no physical requirement at all. It can continue in a hospital bed as easily as it can in a boardroom. This is why it matters so deeply to start asking yourself, long before old age arrives, what is my purpose that does not depend on any one role, relationship, or circumstance? What would I still want to get up for if every title I currently hold disappeared tomorrow? What lights something up inside me that has nothing to do with what other people expect of me? These are not easy questions, and they are not meant to be answered once and filed away. They are meant to be asked again and again, at every stage of life, because the answer will evolve as you do. But the habit of asking them, the discipline of continually renewing your own sense of meaning rather than waiting for the world to hand you one, is one of the most powerful gifts you can give your future self. It is the difference between an old age that feels like waiting and an old age that still feels like becoming. Now let us talk about the third thing, because without it, everything else becomes harder to access. It is the relationship you build with your own body, your own health, your own physical vitality, not as a battle to be won against time, but as a form of ongoing respect. There is a difference between fearing aging and respecting your body. Fear-based thinking says, I must fight the years, I must deny what is happening, I must punish myself into looking and feeling young forever. That kind of thinking leads to exhaustion and disappointment, because time moves in one direction, and no amount of willpower changes that basic fact of existence. But respect-based thinking says something entirely different. It says this body is the only home I will ever have for as long as I am alive, and how I treat it today directly shapes how much freedom, how much comfort, and how much presence I will have available to me tomorrow. People who arrive at their later years with real vitality, people who can still walk in the mountains, still play with their grandchildren on the floor, still travel, still dance, still hug the people they love with real strength in their arms, are almost never people who got lucky. In the overwhelming majority of cases, they are people who made a long series of small, unremarkable daily decisions over many decades. They move their bodies regularly, not to punish themselves, but because movement is one of the purest forms of self-respect available to a human being. They paid attention to what they ate, not through extreme restriction, but through consistent, reasonable care. They protected their sleep. They managed their stress instead of letting it silently corrode their nervous system for 30 years. None of these choices are exciting. None of them make for dramatic stories. But compounded, day after day, year after year, they become the difference between an old age spent in vibrant engagement with the world and an old age spent managing preventable limitations. Here is the deeper truth underneath all of this. Your body is not separate from your mind, your purpose, or your peace. It is the vehicle that carries all of them through time. A mind at peace still needs a body capable of resting deeply. A sense of purpose still needs a body capable of acting on it. Presence with the people you love still needs a body capable of showing up. again and again, for the moments that matter. This is not about achieving some impossible standard of youthfulness. It is about understanding that every act of care you extend toward your own body today, every walk taken, every vegetable eaten, every night of real sleep protected, every ounce of unnecessary stress released, is a form of love letter written to the person you will become in 20, 30, 40 years. That future person cannot write this letter for themselves. Only you, today, in this very moment, hold the pen. So ask yourself honestly, without shame, without self-punishment, am I treating my body like a home I intend to live in for a very long time? Or am I treating it like something to be ignored until it demands my attention through pain or illness? There is no need for extremity here, no need for obsession, no need for fear. Just steady, patient, daily respect. That alone, sustained over the years, can be the quiet difference between an old age of dependence and an old age of freedom. Now let us talk about the fourth and final thing, and in many ways it is the deepest of them all, because it touches something almost every human being spends their whole life trying to avoid thinking about. It is the ability to make peace with impermanence itself, with the simple, undeniable fact that everything in this life, every person, every possession, every chapter, every version of yourself, is temporary. This is not meant to frighten you, it is meant to free you. Because here is what happens to a person who has never made peace with impermanence. They grip everything too tightly. They fear change so much that they cannot enjoy the present moment, because they are too busy dreading its ending. They avoid difficult but necessary transitions, staying in situations that no longer serve them simply because change itself feels unbearable. And when loss inevitably arrives, as it does for every single person who has ever lived, it arrives as a devastating shock rather than as a difficult but expected chapter of a life fully understood. But something extraordinary happens in the minds of people who have gently, gradually, made peace with the temporary nature of everything. They do not love less. In fact, they often love more fully, more presently, more attentively, precisely because they understand that this moment, this conversation, this sunset, this laugh shared with someone dear, will not come again in exactly this form. Nothing needs to be repeated forever to be meaningful. Its very temporariness is part of what gives it weight. A person who has made peace with impermanence can sit with an aging parent and feel gratitude instead of only grief. They can watch their own reflection change in the mirror and feel a quiet respect for the life that produced those changes, instead of only mourning what has passed. They can face the ending of any given chapter, a career, a relationship, a season of health, even eventually life itself, not with terror, but with something closer to acceptance, and underneath that acceptance, something that can only be described as grace. This kind of peace is not achieved through denial. It is achieved through the opposite, through a willingness to look directly at the truth of impermanence, to sit with it, to think about it honestly rather than pushing it away, and slowly, over years, to let that honest reflection soften into wisdom rather than harden into fear. This is perhaps the rarest of the four things we have spoken about today, and also the most transformative, because a person who has truly made peace with the temporary nature of all things becomes remarkably difficult to shake. Small setbacks lose their power to devastate them. Daily irritations lose their power to consume their attention. They begin to instinctively spend their remaining time on what actually matters, because they understand, at a level deeper than intellectual agreement, that time itself is the only truly non-renewable resource any of us have ever been given. So here is the invitation, not as a warning, not as something to fear, but as an honest and hopeful truth. You do not have to wait until you are old to build these four things. You do not have to wait for love to fade, for friends to scatter, for family to grow distant with time and distance, before you discover what actually holds a human life steady. You can begin now, today, at whatever age you are reading or hearing these words. You can begin gently repairing your relationship with your own mind, choosing patience over self-criticism one moment at a time. You can begin asking yourself what purpose you are building that belongs to you alone, one that no external circumstance can take away. You can begin treating your body with the quiet, daily respect of someone writing a long letter to their future self. And you can begin, slowly, honestly, without fear, making peace with the fact that everything in this life is temporary, and that this truth, rather than being something to dread, can become the very thing that teaches you how to live with your eyes fully open. Love matters, friends matter, family matters. No one is asking you to value them any less, but they are not things you build alone, and they are not entirely within your control. People come and go. Circumstances shift in ways no one can predict. What remains constant, what stays with you in every single room you ever walk into for the rest of your life, is the relationship you have with your own mind, the purpose you carry inside yourself, the respect you extend to your own body, and the peace you make with the fact that all of it, every beautiful moment of it, is passing through your hands like water, asking only to be noticed, appreciated, and lived fully while it is here. Build these 4 things now, patiently, honestly, without fear, and you will not simply survive into old age. You will arrive there whole.